Good morning, good evening, good evening, Becky.
Hello, and how are you?
Oh, pretty good. Start of a new day here, well, within a few hours, I should say. It's been, a good day. The All Blacks won.
Cool. Yeah.
Sounds like
evening.
England won.
Yes. England won. Yes, they did. And Scotland won against Wales as well. So, yeah, my
well, I guess
family
it has to always be a winner.
All good.
No, that's good. Well, we're not going to talk about rugby today, but rugby players have. No.
Oh.
But they do have to use something that we all got.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see that they're not using it and their head's not in there, and for whatever reason. And we're talking about the brain. So we're looking forward to finding out all about the brain to see what is really going on with it when we're in and around in our lives and things just don't seem to be going proper or the way we had hoped. Or there's a whole lot of questions, and we're looking forward to finding out the different aspects of how our brain works, why we struggle sometimes, and all sorts of other things that you've learned from all your training. So I will hand it over to you, and we'll look forward to it.
Cool. Fantastic. I do have my trusty associate, Duncan, who should hopefully be around, and I have helped him. So if people do have questions while I'm doing the presentation, he will see them and he will hopefully be able to answer some of them as well.
Great.
Just says going live soon, so it's not live yet.
No, it takes a few minutes coming on.
Okay, well it'll be on in a minute. Okay, so here we go. The intellectual brain versus the emotional brain, and hopefully you can see that slide at the moment. And what I'm going to touch on, Shane, is why smart people sometimes do the most ridiculous things and why stress makes it worse. Okay, so we're going to cover that today. I'm just going to give a very brief overview of what's going on in our brain. Now, interestingly...
Why a brief one? Is that because we can't handle this?
Why a brief one? Because it's very long. To give and I think certain aspects would be another discussion, to be honest. Yeah. So for people to be able to sort of take this in and be able to ask questions, it's quite a brief one, and then certain aspects will be for another discussion, I think, really. But when you look at the brain, I mean, hopefully you can see that slide of the brain in front of you at the moment. And you've got those coloured areas. When you actually look at the brain, it actually looks like more than one brain. So we tend to think of the brain as being one thing, and it's not. In fact, sometimes, you know, we even use, I don't know if they use that expression in New Zealand, but we use the expression in the UK, I'm in two minds about making a decision about something. Yeah. And when you look at the brain, you've got like the primitive brain, which is really small, and then it looks like you've got other brains on your head, to be honest. So that brain there, the green area, that's what we call the prefrontal cortex. But for the sake of tonight, we're going to call that our intelligent brain. Now, that's the part of the brain that's you. Okay, so it's the part of the brain that you and I have been using while we've been chatting with each other just now. And what you think of as you, and it interacts with the world. And we read, we write, we appreciate music and art. And when we operate from that part of our brain, we normally get things right in life because it always comes up with the right solutions for us. And it's the happy part of our brain. So that's the intelligent part of our brain. But as you can see with the orange area, there's another part of our brain. Now, that's what we call the primitive part of our brain. It's the emotional brain, and it acts on feelings or instinct. Now, Professor Stephen Peters, he wrote a brilliant book, and I can tell you about that at the end. But Professor Stephen Peters uses the analogy of a pet chimp for our primitive part of our brain. It's not you, but it is yours. And like any pet, it can take control. So you've probably seen that man or that woman running down the street with a very long arm because actually their dog is taking them for a walk instead of them being in control of the dog. So when you think of the chimp, we have that. There's nothing we can do about it. The characters of our chimp are there, but we have to train it. So if you think about, say, I've got a rescue dog. I've always had dogs that I've had from puppies, but I've got a rescue dog. And my rescue dog loves to go for cats. Now, we've got a cat in our house. So the cats we've had from the dogs we've had from puppies have always got on with cats. This one, our rescue, went for cats. She had to learn not to. And some dogs will do that. They'll see a cat when you're out walking and they'll go for a cat because that's how they are. That is their instinct. Now, what you have to do if you're a responsible pet owner is you have to train your dog, don't you? So you might go out and you might have those very tasty real sausages that you've cooked and you've chopped up and you've got them in your hand. You might know the certain areas on your walk where that cat appears. And so you will use those sausages to distract your dog from reacting to the cat. So that in the end, what you want is your dog to go, ooh, cat means sausage. I look at mummy. I'm not going to respond to the cat. I'm going to look at my mum. She's going to give me a sausage. And that's what we have to do with our chimp, with our primitive brain. We have to take control of it. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does.
Now, the chimp is focused on survival. It sees the world as a dangerous place, and it's never really very far from its panic button. So if you're looking there at that picture of the jungle now, the primitive brain, the chimp knows that when I walk this particular path, I know where the crocodiles are, I know where the venomous snakes are, I know where the lion hides. Therefore, I'm really happy to walk down that path, even though it's dangerous. And when you think about the fact that our primitive brain has been, geared for helping us to survive that kind of environment, then you can see why being a JW accentuates that negative viewpoint. You think about when you are a JW, for example, it's shepherding calls because you haven't answered up very much. It's why haven't you been out on the field ministry? It's reporting someone if they've not been talking in a very encouraging way, that kind of thing. Actually puts us into that very primitive state. It's a very negative way to look at. And also, when you think about how the JWs portray the world, they portray it as a really dangerous place to be. Worldly people, they're under Satan's control. You can't trust them. So it puts us in a very anxious, kind of negative state, when we know that actually in reality it's probably safer now than any other time in history. And this chimp doesn't like change of any sort. So what we know may be bad and dangerous, as I was saying earlier, it's known, so it feels kind of safe. So if we were to cut a new path through that jungle, even if it was safer, as far as this primitive chimp is concerned, then it doesn't know what might be around. So it's going to prepare us for the worst case scenario. And that's why sometimes JWs go back. Ex-JWs will go back again and again and again. They'll leave, but they'll go back because although they know it's It's not healthy for them. It's not great. It's a path that they're familiar with. And so they'll go back because it's familiar and it feels safe. And this primitive brain, interestingly, it is the same limbic system as chimpanzees and rats, and actually only develops up to the age of 3 or 4. So it's not clever. It's not intelligent. And what it does is it just repeats learned patterns of behavior, even when our intelligent brain, or our prefrontal cortex, knows that they're bad for us. And the other thing about it is, because it's not intelligent, it has a limited tool set. So when it senses danger, it takes control, cuts out the green area, and completely take. Then your anxiety will go up, your heart rate will go up, you'll start to go sweaty, your stomach's going to churn. And in some cases, if you're really, really frightened, then this chimp is going to make you empty your stomach. You know, in some cases, we've seen that, haven't we, with people who are very frightened, they'll throw up. If they've had bad news or shocking news, they'll all throw up, or they'll have to run to the toilet. All designed to get you ready to run, because it thinks there's some kind of emergency. And if you are in that jungle and you did meet a predator, primitive brain, chimp takes over. Brilliant. You survived. You've run away. The trouble with that response, fantastic when we're in that kind of environment, but it's really not helpful for modern day life. So imagine you're in your car, your fuel's on empty, your computer on your car says you've got 5 miles of fuel left. And when you look at your sat nav on your car, it says the nearest fuel station is 15 miles away. And what happens is that very same scenario where your chimp will take over. And that response, does it help? No, it's not going to put extra fuel in your car. So the response that we have for a predator, fantastic. But unfortunately, we don't need that now. But we have the same response in modern day life. That very same response. And it's really not needed at all, because it doesn't help us. But it's the very same symptoms of a panic attack. Does that make sense so far?
Sure does.
And the other thing that we find, like we were saying about having to train our chimp, it's actually quite an important thing to know, because you know that chimp, like we were saying with the animal running off with the cat or whatever else, the chimp really does need training, and it will do the most stupid things, you know, and that happens, doesn't it? Sometimes we've done things and we've gone, what on earth did I do that for? And it was our chimp that was taking over at that particular point in time. And when we look at early man, when they lived in a cave environment, if they looked outside of their cave and they saw danger or ice or a herd of animals outside of the cave, which meant that they couldn't go out and hunt, then what they would do is they would go back inside the cave, pull a rug over them and wait for the danger to pass. It's actually a really sensible thing to do, because the following day, when the danger's passed, you know, this guy's got to go out and he's got to hunt for his family. So he's going to be hunting on an empty stomach. So by going in and pulling the rug over him, it means he conserves all of that energy. Sleep, wait for the danger to pass, is again a chimp-like response to danger. Makes sense in that kind of a circumstance. But again, we've still got that response in modern day life. So we have those duvet days. I can't solve the problem. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to hide under my duvet. But actually, does it help? No, because actually we're not in a life or death situation. It's just the way we're interpreting events in our life. So that's where those duvet days come from. And the psychology, the physiology about what happens with the brain, scientists are absolutely adamant about this. When early humans were hunting, when they were gathering, and when they were interacting with each other, what happened was that they had these chemical responses in their brain, these neurotransmitters. And the most important neurotransmitter that we know, obviously, is serotonin. So when they did all of this that we can see there in front of us, they actually felt good. And they did more of it. And the more they did, the better they felt. Now, obviously, we don't go out and hunt and gather today. So how can we have that same kind of response ourselves? How can we have the same rewards? Well, we need to operate as they did within positive parameters, in positive ways. We need to make a conscious effort to note down the positive things in our life. So positive interactions, positive activity, and positive thinking, and write them down. Maybe write them down at the end of each day before you go off to sleep. Because if you do that, you're taking control of your chimp. You're putting him to sleep. And what you're doing is you're moving into your intelligent part of your brain. And when you're moving into your intelligent part of your brain, you start to have a steady flow of serotonin. Now, I'll give you an example. I suffer with chronic pain. And when I wake up in the morning, I am in an awful lot of pain. There is nothing that they can do about it. You know, I have some spinal damage and some nerve damage. Not a lot they can do. So I can wake up in the morning and think to myself, oh, one, it's the morning and it ruins my day getting up in the morning. I can think about how much pain I'm in and how difficult it's going to be to get up in the morning, and I can focus on that. It's not going to help my serotonin because I'm going to be in chimp mode. I'm not going to be in my prefrontal cortex. Instead, what I do is I focus in on the fact that my husband is always the first to get up in the morning and go down and make a cup of tea. And he brings me up a cup of tea every single morning and has done for 33 years. And I focus in on that. I focus in on the fact that he's prepared to do that for me. And that shows how much he loves me and how special I must be. And then I focus in on how wonderful that is. You know, here I am with this warm cup of tea. What does my mug feel like? What does it smell like? And then what does it taste like? And by doing that, I'm focusing in on the positive things. I'm putting a chimp to sleep who wants to be, oh, you're in pain. Oh my goodness, I need to be on alert. No, you don't. I'm not going to die just because I'm in pain. So by focusing in on that, I'm helping that serotonin flow in my brain. And it makes me feel more positive about getting up. Therefore, I don't notice the pain so much. So when we're depressed, we're not feeling any kind of chemicals in our brain at all. We're not motivated. We don't want to do anything. We're not feeling happy. We're just not feeling anything. And when we're in our anxious part of our brain, then we have so many chemicals going through our brain as if we've got to run from a predator. So we've got cortisol running through our brain, which is actually really bad for our immune system if we have that running through our system for too long. We've got adrenaline pumping through as well, which again is exhausting. But when we focus in on those positive thinking, positive activity and positive interaction, then what we're starting to do is we're releasing chemicals like serotonin, noradrenaline, dopamine and endorphins. Endorphins are all part of natural painkillers that can be really, really strong, actually more strong than morphine when we get that right. And dopamine and noradrenaline, all again, when they're flowing through their brain, they actually help to motivate us. So when we start doing these positive things, then what happens is our brain really likes it and wants these chemicals flowing. So we've got the serotonin, we've got all these other chemicals running through our brain. And then what happens is our brain goes, I really like this. And so it will motivate us to do more of the same. So it might be, you know, thinking of an example, if we've got a corner of our room or a job that we've been putting off, you know, say it's a corner of our room we want to tidy up, or we've got a spare room we want to tidy up, and we're going to just do that corner. And we're so inspired by it, we actually start doing more because we get those chemicals, those positive chemicals running through our brain. So what we found with early man is when they were doing this, they got these rewards, they became braver, they were able to cope with pain better, and it keeps them in their, you know, kept them in their intelligent part of our brain. And that's what happens to us, as we start to be more in our intelligent part of our brain, and we start to get control of our chimp. So it's a really important thing to do, even if you're on medication. You know, I've had clients, for example, who have said to me, oh, I'm on medication, but it's just not working. It's not working at all. My medication for my mental health, it's not working. Okay, what are you doing during the day? I stay in bed. Are you doing anything positive? No. Are you interacting with anyone? No. Are you doing any positive thinking at all? No. So they're not producing serotonin. And what medication does is it helps to keep serotonin in your brain for longer, but you've still got to produce it. So by doing this, even if you're on medication for mental health, it will mean that your medication is working much more efficiently. So just by leaving the JWs is not enough, because you've been living a life that has put you into chimp mode. It's given your chimp free reign, you know, and when you leave, you really need to, it's not enough to just go, well, I've left. Ooh, that's great, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's fabulous. But you still need to get control of your chimp, because you've been living in that state for so long. It's not a religion that puts you in your prefrontal cortex. So it needs training. And by doing those kind of things, you can start to find out the character of your chimp. You know, when we have a dog or a pet and then it dies and we get another one, they each have a different personality. So we need to spend time finding out what our chimp is like, and then working on training it and distracting it so that we get control of it. And then we're not feeling bitter about all those years we've wasted, because we're focused on moving forward. And by doing that, working within those positive parameters, that will really help us to get control. Does that make sense?
It does.
So there we are. I'm open to chatting with you now and seeing what you think.
So can we name our chimp?
Yes, in fact, if you have a look, the book that I was referring to, most of my training has been very much based on Stephen Peters. And if you look at his book, it's called The Chimp Paradox, and you can get it on Kindle, you can get it on audiobooks, you can get it on Amazon. I think you can buy it on Amazon as well, actually. So have a look on there, and he encourages you to name your chimp. Actually, I have a name for mine, and most people that have read the book name their chimp, and it is actually quite helpful because you can just, you know, like you would with a naughty dog, you just sort of, come on now, blah blah, get a grip in it, and it just helps you to realize that you have got that part of you that is you. Well, not really you, but it's a part of you, and you know, that's why you sometimes do the most ridiculous things and you're not aware of it, because it's the chimp that's doing it. It's a part of you, but it's not actually really you, if that makes sense. It's that primitive part of your brain, but you can control it. So, you know, somebody turning around and saying, oh, well, I've always been this way, so there's nothing I can do about it. That's as ridiculous as somebody walking with a dog and being dragged across the floor and saying, well, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. Of course you can. You can train it.
Is that where your sausages come in? Is that what you're talking?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just do a practical suggestion. You talked about the ones leaving the J-dubs.
Mm-hmm.
They've got their safe zones, as it were, and they seem to retreat back into that. Have I got that right?
How do you mean they're safe? The chimp paradox. Yeah, that's right.
That's so they'll go down. They know where the crocodiles are. So they know where maybe a family member lives.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, some other little thing that's happened in their life happened.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that we can train ourselves to not allow those things to get to us as much as other things?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So with the XJ-dub community, you mentioned that if they come out, they feel they're going to be fine.
I think some people feel they're going to be fine.
Are they?
I think for some people they are, depending on how much control, you know, they already have on their chimp. You know, and other people come out and I've noticed they're really negative about life. They're negative about their whole experience, and they're focused in on that. And I would say they're really allowing their chimp to free reign. You know, they're not getting control of the chimp, and they're not moving forward and looking forward. They're an XJW, but they're still living in that world that they've left, you know, because they're harping on about it, or they're moaning about all the time they've wasted and feeling bitter or feeling angry that they were conned, or all of those kind of things are very primitive. They are very chimp-like.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you say would be a good first step? You know, we're going through this primitive chimp-like state. Whether it's a trauma that happened, maybe an elder did something, what we perceive to have done something to us. How can we, or any sort of thing that would have happened, how can we take a first step?
I think you need to let it go. The first step would be to let it go. You know, okay, this is where I am now. It might not be where you want to be, but this is where you actually are now. So therefore, what do I want for my future? Do I want to continue in this anxious, bitter state? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? What am I aiming for? And then really work hard to get there. What steps can you take to get there? Does that make sense? And just spend some time getting to know your chimp and your character, and forget about what you've been taught as a JW, and really ask yourself, you know, what you really feel and what you really think. You know, is this really how I feel and think? Or is this what has been drummed into me as a JW? And if necessary, spend some time with a paper and pen and work out your feelings. You know, I feel this. What's the evidence that this is a really good way to feel? And what's the evidence against this? You know, put your feelings and thoughts into a court of law. Make your imaginary court in front of you and put those feelings and thoughts to the judge as if you're in a real court. Be the prosecution for your thoughts and be the defense for your thoughts, and then realistically sum up the evidence. And that way you start to find out how you really think and feel. You start to get to know your chimp. You start to get to know who you really are in your subconscious. And you can start to put down some of those thoughts and feelings. And then you can start moving on and moving away from those old patterns of behavior that are the JW's way of thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But what happens, okay, so males seem to, I'll use male, since I'm a male. Sometimes we seem to struggle with writing things down or coming to grips with the things that we've got to try and get down onto a piece of paper. How can we work through that? Is there a couple of little practical tips you could give us to help us write these things down if we're really struggling to come to terms with what we are, and a lot of XJ-dubs are struggling?
Start in a small area that you are comfortable in. You know, that we've all had thoughts that are different to the JW way of thinking.
Yeah.
And that's why we've left. So start with those. Start with something that you're really familiar with.
Okay.
You know, on those small things that you're really familiar with, very comfortable with, you're confirming why you feel that way, and then just branch off from there.
Yeah.
Just take it a little step at a time.
Okay, so the comment down the bottom's from Mary. She says, would you say we're living more in the feelings instead of the ability to think things through?
The primitive brain, or the chimp, is very feeling-like. It doesn't think logically because it's not intelligent. So if we're feeling a lot and we're not thinking a lot, then we probably do need to sort of recognise that our chimp is in control, actually. And sometimes, you know, watching something funny, doing something for us, you're just watching something funny or getting somebody to make you laugh can, you know, just bring you out of chimp mode and into your prefrontal cortex. And when we're here, that's when we can start to calm down and we can start thinking logically about our problem.
Okay, cool. The sausages that you feed to your dog, because he loves walking sausages, how long did that take to happen, and how long would it take a human to be able to bring in some of these sausages so that we can control our thoughts?
Right, so those sausages, this is why I say we need to spend time getting to know our chimp. And we kind of do know it. We know what our triggers are. Okay, now these aren't our triggers, these are the chimp's triggers, remember. Okay, so when we react to something, oh, it really annoys me, that's our chimp. Our chimp feels, you know, if somebody says something, oh, it's our chimp that makes us angry. Anger is a primitive response. So if we saw a predator, we'd run. Okay, that's a primitive brain taking over, making us run. If we feel threatened, the chimp responds by making us angry, and anger makes us, supposed to make us stronger so we can fight, defend ourselves. So what might work for one dog isn't going to work for another. Now, I've had a Labrador. We all know, if you know anything about dogs, Labradors are very food orientated. It's really easy to train a Labrador. If you want a dog that you want to train, that's really easy, get a Labrador, because they're so easy to train because they are food orientated. If I'd used that with my German Shepherd, it wouldn't have worked. They're not food orientated. And if you watch police officers when they're training dogs, they don't give them a treat, a German Shepherd, they give them a toy. So for a German Shepherd, that sausage would be a toy, not an actual sausage. So it's knowing the dog and knowing what works. Yeah. So that's why I say sometimes we do actually know our chimp more than we realise, and it's spending time just getting to know what our chimp is like and how we can quieten it, how we can distract it, and how we can, you know, reward ourselves when we've done it. And sometimes it's quite easy because, you know, to blame our chimp as well. So Duncan has a name for his chimp and I have a name. Duncan's my husband and I have a name for my chimp. And so sometimes it's quite easy to turn around and say, I'm really sorry, but that wasn't me, it was blah blah, you know, just as a laugh. But obviously we are responsible for it, just as we are responsible for a dog. So it's difficult to say what those sausages might be, because what my sausage might be is not going to be what your sausage is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And only we know what that is. So that's why I say we need to sort of spend a little bit of time to...
Yeah. So does that mean to say that training with the sausages, are dogs or animals different than humans? And do we need to get retrained or work on something that might pop up that we didn't pick up when we were sitting getting to know ourselves?
I personally, as I said, the limbic system, so that primitive brain is the same as chimpanzees and rats. So it is very, very animal-like.
Okay.
And it's childlike. It's not intelligent. It only develops up to the age of 3 or 4. And if you think about it, think about an adult who's absolutely lost their temper, you know, and they're in a full-blown rage. Have you ever seen an adult like that? You know, you more often than not sit and think, oh my goodness, they're behaving like a child. And you can't reason with them. You can't explain anything to them. You can't get them to think logically because they are 100% in chimp mode. That's the best example I can give you, really, of what it's like. Does that make sense? So when somebody's in that state, that's why it's quite helpful knowing this about the brain, because when somebody's in that state, it's pointless trying to get the chimp to calm down. They've got to do that by themselves. And the only way of really talking to somebody when they're in chimp mode like that, when they're really angry, when they really lost their temper, is to just wait until they vented. Once the chimp has vented and got it all out of its system, then what happens is the chimp goes to sleep because it feels like the threat's over now and I've done what I needed to do and now we're safe, so I can go to sleep. Once it's gone to sleep, then you can approach the person and say to them, blah, 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 blah. You know, when you did this, when you said this, this is how it made me feel. And you've got more chance of having a logical discussion with that person then, because they're now in their prefrontal cortex. So it is worth spending time getting to know your chimp, because when you do, you can actually start to get the chimp on your side, just as you can with a dog. You can start to train it. You can start to know what the triggers are, what triggers your chimp, and you can start to get it on your side. So if I know I've got something that's going to trigger my chimp coming up, I don't show it. So I won't think about it.
How long does that take you to train yourself to do that?
That's going to be different for each person, to be honest, Shane. It really is. It's still a work in progress with me. It's still a work in progress. And I think it always will be a work in progress, to be honest, because I've experienced trauma. So I think it always will be. But it gets much, much easier. Like when you're teaching a dog tricks, you have to practice. You have to keep practicing. I remember listening to Johnny Wilkinson, the rugby player. You know, one of the things he used to do is stand there like that. And one of the things that he said, and he was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal with his. I don't remember ever seen him miss one. He must have done, but I don't remember ever seeing him.
Yeah, he did. I remember him missing one or two.
Right. But he was phenomenal. And one of the things he did was practice. And he would practice in the pouring rain, in the wind, in the sun. And he'd practice for hours and hours and hours until he got good. And I don't understand why we as humans don't do the same thing with our brain. Why do we not think about it? We all think about going to the gym and exercising our muscles, but we don't think about exercising and training our brain. And yet we need to. And especially when you've been part of a high control religion, we really need to spend even more time, you know, training our brain, exercising it, getting it to work for us and getting it on our side, you know. Does that make sense?
It does. Because we go to exercise.
Sorry?
So we do go and do exercise, whether it's to the gym or out in the garden or whatever. We're doing that sort of thing. So you're right. If we don't get our brain into a functioning way, we're going to be struggling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it does take practice, and that's why I say I'm still a work in progress, you know, and I don't think anybody ever, I think this is why it's really important. We should be teaching this kind of stuff to children at school, to be honest, about the different parts of the brain. And you know, I have found it interesting working with children and explaining about the chimp, to be honest. They grasp it very, very quickly. It
looks like Jan just has grasped it too. Jan
brilliant. So it's, you know, it's one of those things where it just takes practice, and we will get better at it. And as regards to the old patterns of behaviour, and I think I've said it before, if you move that fridge, you know, you redesign your kitchen and you move that fridge to a new spot, every time you get up in the morning and you go to make a drink, you're going to keep going to that old spot. That's how easy it is, those old patterns of behaviour. But eventually the brain gets used to the fact that the fridge has moved, you know, and that's even without trying. So imagine what we can do if we start making an effort by thinking positively, moving ourselves out of chimp mode and into our prefrontal cortex, and just, you know, getting control of ourselves, instead of saying, oh, this is how I've always been, oh, I'm an anxious person, it's just the way I am. You know, that might be the way your chimp is, but you can get control over it. The question is, do you really want to? You know, what's Duncan saying? Male chimps are usually macho. They like to win prizes. It helps if you write down goals and give yourself a tick. When you achieve them, you get a chemical reward for it. You do. And I've got a lot of clients who absolutely love having tick boxes and lists and things like that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's just when you were talking before of helping us to keep our mind focused. Would things on the wall around the house be helpful?
Yes, it can be really helpful to some people. But there are other set of people that are perfectionists, and they will set themselves unrealistic goals.
Okay, cool.
And then they're really disappointed that they've set this unrealistic list of things to do in the day, and then they're pissed off with themselves and depressed because they haven't ticked off every single one of them.
What's a realistic goal?
That's a tough one. That's really tough. So, you know, some people might write a list of 10 things, and I would say don't do that, because that could be unrealistic. So set a couple of goals for that day, and if you've got some for the next day and you go into that, fantastic. But if you've only got a couple of goals for that day, and you meet those, if you are a perfectionist, then that's probably a better way to do it. If you're somebody who's always on the go, you can probably set a few more goals than somebody who's perhaps a perfectionist, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So would one goal be like getting out of bed?
For some people, absolutely. For some people, a goal might be actually getting dressed.
Okay.
For somebody else, it might be leaving the bedroom. and actually going downstairs. You know, that might be a huge step for them. For somebody else, it might be driving to the supermarket on their own and getting some shopping, one item and coming back. So that's why it's difficult to set what might be a realistic goal. It really depends on the individual. But it is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and weighing up the evidence. You know, oh, I can't, you know, because but remember what we said about the chimp. It likes to think about the worst case scenario. So actually ask yourself, is that really likely to happen? But again, put those thoughts down. I can't go shopping on my own because this might happen and that might happen. That's just your chimp. So don't let your chimp realise that you're going shopping. Just decide you're going to do it and do it. You know, and if you are holding yourself back, then write down what's realistic. Are those thoughts about all those thoughts really realistic? That's going to happen. Nobody's going to die if I go shopping. I'm not going to die if I go shopping. So sometimes we have to push ourselves to make the chimp realise that actually nothing is going to happen to me if I go shopping. I went shopping and nothing bad happened to me. And I came back. So we don't push ourselves. We're never going to get any better. So sometimes just don't show the chimp what you're doing. Does that make sense? I'm just going to do it. Right, do it now. Don't show the chimp what you're going to do, so it doesn't have time to respond to what's happening around you. Yeah.
So we might have covered this. You're saying don't show your chimp. If it's wandering around in our head, how can we not show the chimp?
It's not wandering around in our heads. It's a certain part of our brain.
So how do we disguise it then?
Because you move by doing all those positive things. Yeah. You're not thinking of the worst case scenario. If you're in your primitive brain, you're thinking of the worst case scenario. If you move yourself into your prefrontal cortex, you think of solutions to your problems. It's where you're creative. If anybody's creative, it's because they're in their prefrontal cortex. So you think outside of the box. So you can think of things logically from there. From that part of your brain. So by doing all those positive things, you're not giving your chimp a chance to notice what's going on.
Okay.
Because you'll think positively about going shopping, won't you? And you'll think, oh, what if I can't find a space to park? When you're in your prefrontal cortex, your intelligent brain, oh, well, that's never happened before. I've always found somewhere to park. Do you see the difference?
Yeah. Okay, so here's a practical example. Linda's just said on your guys' TV, which is not coming up. Oh, there you go. You're going to be going into lockdown. With what happened, and it seems a lot of countries are going into a major second lockdown because of the COVID. If that's going to affect us, what can we actually do?
Right, so we can think positively about it. How many times have we been going to work and wanted some days off? What did you want some days off for? Resting? Catching up with jobs? So make a list of all the things that you're going to do if you're going to lockdown. All those things that you've been meaning to catch up on. It's a brilliant time to do it. It's also a brilliant time to get in touch with people as well. Hi, how are you doing? You know, with the lockdown, just checking you're okay. So you can still have those positive interactions. And by setting yourself some goals and some jobs to do in the garden, in the house, or whatever it might be, then you're thinking positively as well. And you're acting in a positive way. Does that make sense? So we can still keep ourselves in that part of our brain and we can still do all of those things. Fantastic opportunity. I've got things that I'm going to be doing. I've got a list of jobs for Duncan. Some DIY, all kinds of fabulous things. Yeah. So there's lots of things that we can do, we can think of, we can organise, you know, and people that we can still get in contact with, neighbours that we can pop in and just check that they're all right. Do you need any shopping? So again, it's just thinking in a positive way about it. And that's what I did the last lockdown. I didn't think, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to see my clients. What am I going to do? Oh, this is awful. I just thought, okay, I've got this time at home where I don't have to be responsible for going out, going to work, going to do this. Fantastic. What can I do? What are all the things I've been meaning to do? And let's get stuck into them and let's get on with them, you know. And we also found as well, there were lots of things online to do. So there were art centres doing things free online. There were museums doing free tours online. There were artists that, you know, musical artists that were doing free gigs and songs and all sorts of things online. So, you know, get online, see what things there are. There were also, I found in the UK, lots of courses, free courses and all sorts of bits and bobs that people were putting on just to keep your brain occupied as well. Some interesting courses. I think there was a safeguarding course. Another one was like a first aid course, and you know, there were lots of various bits and pieces that you could do. If you're in business, it's a great opportunity to do CPDs, so, you know, personal development and things like that. So it's just getting your head in a different space and viewing it positively, really.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time when we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
All the things I wanted to do, I never got through the half of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and we were the same. We were like, oh, okay, lockdown's been lifted. I wasn't ready for that. Yeah.
Well, at least Duncan's got more time to be prepared now. You've warned him.
I have.
Yeah,
no excuse. Yeah.
Have fun, Dunk.
I know, right? Oh dear. Yeah. So there's you know, there's lots of learning things to do. And I think there were TED Talks. TED Talks, they're a great way. And I think there's also lots of talks on the brain as well on there, and lots of different experiences. And another great avenue, why don't you learn something new in lockdown? Because there's fantastic YouTube videos now. So somebody I know decided that she was going to teach herself how to crochet. Went on YouTube, got what she wanted from Amazon, went on YouTube, and she's made herself a fantastic shawl. So YouTube is a fantastic avenue for learning new things, and also for fixing things. I mean, we went onto YouTube to fix our dishwasher. Fabulous. You know, Mealy were going to come out and charge us an extortionate amount. And we sort of typed in the symptoms, and YouTube came up with possible scenario, looked at it. We thought, well, it's what, 20 quid for this part, you know, from an electrical place, got the parts, and then watched the YouTube video on how to put it in there. And Duncan did it. And hey presto, we had a new dishwasher working for under £40. So it's, you know, that's
so he can take you out for a meal once lockdown's done and dusted.
Exactly. I went onto YouTube and I said to him, once he'd done it, I said, look how much I've saved you. What kind of reward do I need now, huh?
Yeah, no, it is a good time.
I do appreciate that. I mean, I have had one client particularly lives on their own. So those positive interactions tend to be either video calls, and, you know, WhatsApps. But he does live in a city, so he's been able to have like delivery, you know, so, you know, his food delivered, and therefore he's been able to spend time with anybody who delivers food. He would have a positive interaction with them. So, you know, it's still looking for those opportunities to still be positive, and you can still find them even if you're, you know, on your own.
Looks like Mary's becoming a sort of a mechanic.
Oh my goodness! Our YouTube says replace my driver's side motor. There you go. You see, fantastic. Go us. Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
she also said silversmithing is something I want to learn. And maybe we can encourage Mary when she does it after looking at YouTube to show us some of the results.
Yeah, that would be amazing. In fact, I did a silver course. I went to one and made some silver jewellery because I was very much the same, really interested into it. And it's actually really therapeutic. So yeah, good on you. Well, we want to see your results, please. Thank you. When you do it.
And I guess we can put it out in the group. If you do happen to go into a lockdown, put up the photos that you're doing.
Absolutely. That would be
Let's see the fun that you can actually have, even though lockdown can be quite traumatic for a lot of people. We don't need to be traumatic. We've got a community here that is really loving, really supportive, and have some brilliant ideas. We've just had some now. I never thought about doing silversmithing, but I've got other things. Not that we're going back into lockdown, but I guess that's the benefit of living in the bottom of the world, surrounded by a lot of water.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And if you've learned a new skill, if you're going into lockdown, then put it up. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. The fact is, you're teaching something new, you're learning something new, and you know, I've talked before about neuroplasticity. Our brain actually changes shape when we learn something new, and we're building those new neurons. It's fabulous for us. It's brilliant when we're exercising the brain. And if we're in lockdown, I think it's a perfect time, because I always think, you know, when I used to be a nurse, I used to be a palliative care nurse, and sometimes, you know, if a patient was in an awful lot of pain in the middle of the night, I'd sometimes sit with them, you know, and I'd touch them about their life, and I'd sometimes say, is there anything you wish you'd done? And it would be something I wish I'd learned to do, whatever it was, you know. So lockdown, great time. Unless, of course, it's skiing or something that involves other people.
Yeah, it might be a bit of a worry if they try.
Might be a bit difficult. Put some cardboard down your stairs and try. No, I don't recommend that. But yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yes. We just had somebody say, Suzette said, furniture painting from YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, upcycling. It's a brilliant way to go. Do you know, I'm really sick of that piece of furniture. Well, what if you changed colour? What if it changed colour, or you took the doors off and changed it slightly? You know, you might actually love it. Yeah, I think furniture painting is fantastic. And there's so many YouTube videos on that as well, on how to do that. Some amazing ones. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, I also agree with what Mary just put there with regards to our brain changes shape. I did not know that.
Yeah. It's not fixed. You know, where we learn, it's not fixed. So, you know, we can continually, I mean, I've read of cases where somebody's been in their 80s and they've gone to university. So you're building new neurons, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever had an ad. We had it here in New Zealand a few years ago. They were talking about older ones getting up and exercising, and they said if you don't use it, you lose it. So that would also apply to our brain, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So I learned how to play the piano when I was much younger. I can't remember much of how to do it because I haven't done it for so long. And people don't understand that. People think, oh, once you've learned it, it's like riding a bike. No, it's not. Not for a lot of things. It isn't. It really isn't. You know, why is it that some people come to the UK from another country, speaking another language? They've been here, say, 20 years. They go back, and there's certain words they can't remember of their mother tongue because they're not using those neurons. So, you know, if we don't use it, then we do. Sure, they would soon pick it up much more easily than, say, somebody like me learning it completely from you. But yes, it's fascinating that the brain recycles as well. So when we're not using these neurons anymore, it recognizes that and goes, oh, you're not using these anymore. Okay, well, we'll just recycle all these chemicals and use them for building new neurons because we notice that you're learning this now. So we'll start working on this area of the brain. And that's how, it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. And we don't really realize just how powerful our brain can be.
So what we've basically been doing is a practical example of how we can change the way we do things. So the COVID's going to make people change things as it has right around the world.
Yeah.
So if we imagine the XJ-Dub side of things is like a COVID, we can get on top of it, can't we?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, oh, absolutely we can. There's no excuse, really. You might need some help, and that's absolutely fine. But to say, oh, this is the way I am, and that's the way it is, well, that's ridiculous. Because, like you said, with COVID, we noticed, didn't we, how the world, some people responded to that. Oh, I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm going to panic buy toilet roll. Which part of the brain were they in? They were in chimp mode, weren't they? Yeah. So
I don't understand that one, but anyway, that's a side point.
Yeah, because it's change. Remember what we said about the jungle? The chimp doesn't like to go down a path it doesn't know, even if it's safer, because it doesn't know it, doesn't know, what's there, doesn't like change. And that's why sometimes people get stressed when they move home, people get stressed when they're going on holiday. There's a certain degree of stress because the chimp doesn't like change. And so with COVID, it's change, isn't it? Not going to work, not having that same routine, shopping differently, everything's different, not having cash, all of that. So the chimp can be very reactive to that. So that's why it's really important so that we don't get depressed, because when we're in chimp mode, depression, anxiety, all of that come from that area of the brain. So if we're working in a positive way, then we can get through it much more easily. And we don't need to feel so depressed and anxious and end up in crisis. But it is very important that we exercise the brain so that we can move on from the JWs, because it's a very negative way of living when you're a JW. Very negative way of living. You think of working in harmony with your prayers. I mean, what does that even mean? Really? But it's a negative way. If you felt that your prayers weren't being answered, then am I not good enough then? Am I not working hard? Do you see what part of the brain it's putting you in? So it's very important when we leave the JWs, we work really hard and practice being in that positive part of our brain, and we can do it. And then we can start being positive with other people as well and helping them move forward.
Absolutely. Well, Becky,
making a new life for yourself.
Yeah. What you've told us today is very eye-opening.
Oh.
Really appreciate. I know there's so much more that we could learn, so much more we could understand. But what you've told us by the PowerPoint and your explanations has been fantastic. And I really want to thank you. And so looking at some of the comments that have come through, you've made some points that, like for myself, I didn't realize our brain would change. Things like that can help us understand why we're going through or have been through, depending on how long we've allowed it to carry on, the reasons for it.
Yeah.
And that's been great. We really want to thank you for your time and talking to us today. We look forward to doing it again. Yeah, which I know we've got plans to do, but we've got to start little steps at a time so we can understand the basics.
Yeah. Yeah,
not absolutely. That the brain's basic, but
No, exactly. But if somebody wants to read more about that and they're really into reading and you're going to go into lockdown, no excuse, honeys. Get the book, Chimp Paradox. I am not making any money from this. I'm literally saying it's a brilliant book to read because it goes into the chimp and it talks about the computer part of your brain, and it even talks about gremlins. So it is well worth reading. It's a fabulous book and it just goes into it in a lot more detail. Professor Stephen Peters, great guy, and he's also written a book for children. So it's well worth having a look, because he's written a book for children as well. So if you've got children, and you know, maybe, yep, so there it is. That's the other one, the chimp paradox in the little chimp in the box. If you've got children, it's a great way of explaining how sometimes they do something naughty and they didn't mean to do it. And it's a great way, you know, instead of them getting upset, it's a great way of explaining to them why that sometimes happens, but they do need to take control over it, and it'll give them some tips on how to do that. So that's a really great book if you've got children. Can't remember what the children's one is, but if you put in Professor Stephen Peters in Amazon, it should list his books in it, and it should come up with that book for children as well. Yep. So it just goes into it in much more detail, basically.
And just to back up what I said before,
what's that?
The comment down the bottom.
Oh,
Suzette said that.
Oh,
so it's been very, very helpful. We really have appreciated it.
You're very welcome.
And Duncan, I look forward to seeing the list being wiped off. Your house is going to be redecorated, painted, and refurbished before you know it.
Yeah. In fact, the last lockdown, that's what we did with our media room. We redecorated it and got a new sofa.
He's got a media room?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we redecorated it and got it all fab. We still haven't got the lights in here, actually. But anyway, yeah.
Another lockdown coming.
Yeah.
So you're going to have that till December the 2nd. So is that a month of lockdown? Is that what Linda said?
I don't know. I've put the news on record to find out what's going on, because obviously that's going to affect me seeing clients and stuff, and my son.
Well, just as well you got technology.
So BBC was going to record what it's going to be really tough on a lot of next Thursday to the 2nd of December. That's ridiculous, to be honest. It's quite interesting because Wales has been in lockdown, but I think when on the list of deaths, you know, on the list of why people have died, list of reasons for why people have died, I think COVID for Wales came for September, came in 27th or 29th. I think the main cause of death in Wales for September was actually dementia. And then you had cancer, and then it just went all the way down. And I think it was 27, 20, 29, something like that was COVID. So I think a lot of people are feeling, why? You know, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it's pointless going over that. Our chimp will want to go over that because it will just feel it's unjust. So we just have to accept it and plan positive plans, you know. Yep.
Start making your things you want to do list.
Yeah.
Have fun doing it.
Have fun doing it. Share it with us in the group, and because that would be great. And even if you miss apps, even if you've learned something new, and this is the end result, it was a mess, and you find it funny, share it, because we'll all have a laugh. Because you know it's all bonding, isn't it? We're all bonding, really.
Definitely. So, and here's another invitation: if you are in lockdown and you want to be part of the live stream, let's tee up a time. Let's have another live stream with 9 people. We can have up to 9 people. And let's talk so everybody can see what we're talking about. We won't do it in Zoom. It only stays in this group anyway. So by all means, you can hop on without putting your face up there. And let's just have some fun. So if in lockdown you'd like to do that, let me know, because we'll tee it up and we'll have fun all together, whether we're in lockdown or not. New Zealand's not in lockdown. So.
And I think, especially if you're living on your own, that would be a great thing for somebody to participate in, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, because you can get a bit tired of talking to Alexa, can't you?
I don't know. I don't use Alexa. Apple, the dark side, you know.
Yeah.
Mind you, IBM's just as bad, but anyway. Yeah. No, I don't use them. I try and use my brain, which sometimes I struggle with. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Well, it is. But, you know, talking to yourself can be good, because at least you don't fall out with yourself normally. It's when you start answering your back.
Or Yeah, I answer myself back all the time. Oh, I didn't say that. No. Anyway, thank you once again, Becky.
You're welcome.
We look forward to catching up again. Thank you for everybody on the live streams. And
yeah, thank you so much for all your comments.
Yeah, it's been great and having everybody here. And Mary, it does sound great. And yeah, I really mean that. If we want to have a group chat, let's get together. You don't have to be alone. No. Coming up in the next few weeks, just to let everybody know, next week we do have a Zoom meeting. I'll put that up. The following week, where we talk about ones who have moved on, we're going to have a comedian who has moved on and doing some amazing stuff. So we look forward to finding out who this comedian is, and I'll tell you, it's a he. And what he has been doing. He's just done a gig this week, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. So let's get to know another person. And we've possibly got an army man coming up, and you've got an older woman who's quite amazing. Wow. So it really does show. I've even got a younger one coming up. Hopefully we'll learn, and we'll continue to learn, because that's going to help us. So everybody, thank you once again for coming along. Thank you for your comments, and thank you to you, Becky. We really have appreciated your time. And we'll look forward to catching up once again with everybody. Drinks online over lockdown was great.
Yeah, why not? Cheers.
So, thank you, Jan, for doing
Good
that.
idea.
We can get our drinks and different things together and sit there and
yeah, that was a touching one.
I'm in trouble.
That was
I'm in trouble. Yep, never mind. Okay, so how to
mature.
Okay, mature. Okay, so we have a wonderful, lovely, mature woman. There we go. Sorry if I've offended anybody. I shouldn't be laughing. Sorry.
No, we're just having a laugh. Oh, dear.
All righty, guys. Thank you once again. And we look forward to catching up with you in the group chat and our Facebook page. And if you think that anybody you know would benefit from what is happening around us in our group, invite them. Let them be part of the fun. It is a safe environment. I know we put up posts to not encourage the political side of things. That's too divisive. Christian beliefs, that can be another divisive one. Our group is focusing, while you can have your beliefs, and that's great if you've got your beliefs, while we're focusing on life after, we need to practice it.
Yeah.
We need to work on it. We know it's not easy. We know some are struggling, but we are here to help you. And that's why we're doing what we're doing with these live streams. So once again, thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. Enjoy yourselves and keep safe and have fun. Get to know your troop. All right, guys. Catch you later.